to introduce ourselves here. We work with Highway 3, which is a partner of Atlassian. And my name is Natasha. I am with the marketing and communications here at Highway 3. I'm new to both Victoria and Highway 3. And it's been fantastic so far. I'm not an Atlassian expert, which is why I'm going to introduce Krista. But I'm here to listen and learn today with you guys. So that's going to be very exciting. Krista is our keynote speaker today. She has been doing digital transformation since before there was Google, which is what she told me. Her passion for migration projects has translated into meticulous, detail-driven interest in others' cloud instances and her client's success with Atlassian. She leads our migrations team and takes on a lot of learning and teaching alongside her clients. She's always looking for new ways and new things to teach and learn about Atlassian. Also, a fun fact about Krista, she sews her own sustainable clothing and she has great style. So you can ask her about that in the Q&A if you really want to. But yeah, she's taken the time to learn these strategies about cloud migration that she wants to share with you. So hopefully you can benefit from her experience and learn something today. So that's our hope. And we just wanted to start with a quick poll for everyone. If you've decided to move to Atlassian Cloud, or if you're thinking about it, we want to get to know you. So tell us about if you're thinking of migration, if you're totally on the fence, if you're not at all interested, but you're hoping to learn more, if you're curious. That's great. I'll just leave that up for a few more seconds. Excellent. Thank you. All right. So yeah, people are thinking maybe they're trying to decide, maybe they're into it, but they still need more information. So that's great. We'll keep going with that and move forward. Krista, would you like to take it away?
Yeah, thanks for the intro, Natasha. As Natasha said, let's get into it. If the thought of moving your Atlassian products from your on-premise servers to the cloud makes your head hurt, well, I get it. Anything done under duress, not by choice, will be met mostly with resistance and can leave you feeling unwell. Add to that what is likely an already full plate for the typical Jira or Confluence admin, add a dash of change, and voila, you end up with a headache. If your team or organization happens to include humans, then a typical response to anything that causes your head to hurt would be avoidance, procrastination, denial. I also get that. Today, I want to share with you 3 strategies to help alleviate the stress that may undoubtedly be at the root of your migration migraine.
Excellent.
In my experience, the biggest sources of stress when moving from Jira and Confluence server to the cloud originate from the following common frustrations. One common frustration is being unclear on the approach for migrating. Most organizations do not know or understand the process prescribed by Atlassian that you must follow to migrate your on-prem data to the cloud. I've yet to work with a team that wasn't surprised by both the complexity and uncertainty inherent in the approach. Not knowing or understanding how you're going to get from point A to point B is overwhelming. Another frustration is the unknown cost of migrating. We are asked all the time to estimate the cost of migrating. I'm in the highly unpopular position of informing people that we really don't know. Migrations can be volatile. Some are a breeze, yet others run into unforeseen issues that extend timelines and drive up costs. And it isn't just the extra effort needed to migrate, as switching to the cloud products also comes with different per user costs. Plus, you'll want to factor in your server renewal balanced against cloud migration trial offers. While the long-term ROI is clear for the cloud products, the unknown short-term costs can be frustrating. And the last frustration I want to acknowledge is the time pressure. Migrating your on-prem Atlassian products is time-consuming. I suspect you feel like you already have enough time. You already don't have enough time to do your job and get things done. Plus, the looming deadline for end of life for the server products is annoying. That's a lot. And with that in mind, let's get started with understanding how you can reduce your migration stress. And the first key to stress-free migration is test early and incrementally. Yes, testing. Testing is the best way to identify potential migration issues. Atlassian has prepared a full migration toolkit, and when you engage Highway 3 to assist with your migration, we also have our own migrating experience and analysis to guide our clients. Even with all of the experience and tools, it is still very difficult to predict what will happen when migrating your server data to the cloud. The best and only way to truly know is through testing. We recommend starting small and simple and increment from there until you're practicing migrating everything. Testing is the only way to determine migration timing. Most teams want to schedule the migration to happen over the weekend, as that is typically a convenient window of downtime. It is only through testing that you understand whether it will be possible to complete your migration in 2 days. Testing is how you know for sure how long each aspect of the migration will take, so you can confidently schedule your production migration window. Testing is also a key component of change management. When you include champions and super users as part of your testing team, they can spread the word, both about migration pitfalls, as well as generating excitement about the new cloud tools. These same testers can provide specific details that are relevant for your team and how you use Jira and Confluence. And we can incorporate that into communication about changes your users can expect with the transition to the cloud. Testing also gives product admins hands-on experience with managing the cloud products and assisting users in the cloud environment, so they're ready for launch day. For some background, Atlassian prescribes a 6-phase migration approach. Access, plan, prep, test, migrate, and launch. And throughout their graphics, an example is here on the slide, they suggest each phase is relatively the same, and they present it as a waterfall linear scenario. Based on our experience, we suggest a modified graphic. We believe the earlier you start testing migrating your data, the better. So as you can see from our modified timeline, we still incorporate assess, planning, and prep. However, we keep it simple and minimal, just enough to get to the point where you can run your first test. Then we test and iterate. For each test, you can refine your plan, do more server and cloud prep, update your change communication, as well as gain confidence. The goal with all of this testing is to get to the point where the production migration is predictable and anticlimactic. Smooth sailing with no issues. It should almost be boring. Moving on, the first key we talked about was test early and test iteratively. And the next key for a stress-free migration is don't rush. One of the biggest stressors for migrating projects comes from making assumptions about how quickly the move can be planned and executed. Do yourself a favor and resist the temptation to assume your migration can be done quickly. With this in mind, we want to share our advice. Expect the unexpected. Migrations rarely go as originally planned, and unanticipated issues will arise when testing. Avoid the urge to assume your situation will be different and build slack for the unexpected into your timeline. Anticipate a steep learning curve. Your migration team will have to learn about the cloud versions, understand the migration strategies and tools, iterate through several test migrations, identify solutions to issues as they're discovered, and document the migration script. Understanding the demands your migration team will face will ensure you set aside enough of their focus and time so their attention can be directed towards your migration. Turnaround time takes time. These migrations involve multiple companies and teams, each providing their expertise and often working in disparate countries and time zones. During the migration, you will engage with many parties from Atlassian, If you're using add-ons with your products, then it's likely you will need to reach out to the app vendors for support. And I expect many of you will work with an Atlassian partner for your cloud licensing and possibly to support your migration. In our experience, the turnaround time for each request often takes days, more so if your request needs to travel the rounds between teams. Awareness will ensure you build this into your timeline. Lastly, dedication is essential. We've already mentioned it. Your migrating team will need time set aside from their normal day-to-day to work on migration planning, preparing, and testing. It isn't just your core migration team we're talking about either. We recommend organizations identify a dedicated executive sponsor and actively involve various types of stakeholders. You can help reduce stress if you provide space for your team to dedicate themselves towards the migration. I'm guessing the last thing you want to hear from me is to slow down, that taking your time will reduce your migration stress. Probably in many respects, this advice feels like the opposite is true. If that's the case, then you may be keen to understand how you can reduce your time to migrate. The answer: engage an Atlassian solutions partner like Highway 3 to assist with your migration. A migration partner will have better insight. We know where to focus and what to avoid. We know intimately what gets migrated and what doesn't. We do a discovery of your server data and configurations and tailor a migration plan that fits your needs. Our insights can reduce risk and streamline the action you need to take. A migration partner knows the territory. Our migration team has spent the past 2 years immersed in migrating the Atlassian products from server to cloud. We have helped many organizations and successfully migrated multiple servers to the cloud. We've established relationships and earned a sterling reputation with many Atlassian migration managers and support engineers. We understand the language of migration and know how to talk to Atlassian and app vendors. A migration partner can guide and educate. Our experience and knowledge positions us to be excellent guides for your cloud adoption. We leverage the time spent preparing for your migration to educate your admins and stakeholders, not just on the migration approach and tools, but on the cloud features. Our migration work with clients is immersive. We provide demonstrations, allow for opportunities for hands-on practice, share articles, and recommend training for your users. We look to the future beyond simply migrating and offer suggestions for streamlining and improving so you can leverage the tools and make the most of your investment. A migration partner has attention and focus. Our team is dedicated to migrations. We do this all day, every day. We stay on top of changes to the latest migration information as improvements are released frequently, almost on a weekly cadence. Plus, as an Atlassian solutions partner, we have access to additional in-depth support material provided by Atlassian. They set us up to support you. And finally, your migration is our highest priority.
Awesome. Thank you, Krista. We're just going to take a quick poll here because we want to hear from you about what types of things stress you out when you consider migrating to the cloud. Maybe you're hearing about this for the first time, maybe you're intimately acquainted with the frustrations, but we want to hear from you what you're thinking about in terms of your team and your instances in the cloud. So I'll just go ahead.
Sorry, Natasha, if you guys pick other, please post something in the chat to give us an idea of what are the other stressors for you.
Yeah, we want to hear from you. And there's no wrong answer. Maybe it's just the color scheme bothers you.
So much blue.
Yeah, there's a lot of blue. They just came out with dark mode, so that's very exciting. Then your eyes won't hurt so much.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll just close that poll in 3, 2, 1. Oh, they're still rolling in. All right, I'll just share the results with everyone. A big one is extra costs for sure. You don't want to be surprised
Yeah.
by your bill at the end of the month. And change in your organization is tough too, with users experiencing things for the first time and maybe losing some of their key assets that they had before, for sure. Excellent. So I'll just put that back over there. And then we also have a very important poll that we want to share with you. Maybe some of you are hungry, so we want to treat you to lunch as a thank you for coming. You want to stick around to the end because we need to share one more key to a stress-free migration with you. But before you hear that, we want to ask you where you'd like to get a gift certificate to lunch. Some people aren't hungry, that's okay. But make sure you participate so that we can send you a thank you when our meeting is done here, and then you won't be hungry today. So, or tomorrow, you can save it for tomorrow. I want to make sure everyone has a chance.
We're almost there, everyone.
Okay, I'll leave that open for a few minutes. Krista, if you want to keep going.
Sure.
Before you do, we also want to just make sure that you follow us on LinkedIn so that you can hear about our next webinar. We also have a few in-person events that we want to come hang out with you guys and have you say hi to us and maybe share a drink and chat about our things that are coming up and things that you're excited about. And we want to hear about what you're doing with Atlassian and also what you're doing with your customers. So follow us on LinkedIn and you'll get all those updates and as well as lots of other fun stuff about Atlassian. But I'll give it back to you, Krista.
Okay, we're almost there. Time for the third key to a stress-free migration. Get help. Okay, you may be tempted to do it yourself. After all, Jira and Confluence have always been tools that allowed you to work the way you want to, how you want to. And why wouldn't migrating be the same? Certainly you can go it alone, but we think a key to reducing your migration stress is to get help. There are three main ways to get assistance with your migration. The first is Atlassian, the second is marketplace vendors, and the last is solution partners. First and foremost, for getting help, Atlassian. They have prepared a thorough migration toolkit. If you do nothing else, then make sure you read through the material they have provided, then read it again. Atlassian likes all migrations to start with a special kind of support request, a move ticket. This request is a keystone for your migration and all interactions with Atlassian support. Every migration is allocated a cloud migration manager, a single resource available to introduce you to the process and help guide you along the way. Atlassian also has a dedicated team of support engineers that specialize in migration support. They have crafted great community support spaces, and there is one dedicated to migrations. In this community space, you can review the articles and community questions, as well as submit your own questions. The community is very active, and if you look around, you may see comments and answers members of our Highway 3 team have posted. I personally find most answers and advice provided is sound and accurate, so it's a reliable source. Second, often overlooked are the marketplace vendors. Add-ons and apps often have their own data and configurations, and migrating that data is done separately from migrating the main Jira and Confluence data. The marketplace listings for each server app include information on whether a cloud alternative is available, as well as links to vendor documentation for the migration pathway. Vendors offer their own support and are the best source of detailed information related to migrating their products. Sometimes their posted migration documentation can be out of date, in which case contacting them directly through their support portals is a great approach to getting current and relevant information for you. And the last one, we strongly encourage engaging a solutions partner. As I mentioned earlier, Atlassian solution partners, especially ones that specialize in migration support like us, are the best way to navigate the migration journey and drastically reduce your stress. As I already said, we know where to focus and what to avoid. We have experience migrating, and we've done this before. We have thorough knowledge of the tooling and access to partner exclusive knowledge base. And we spend all our time every day on migrations. Your migration is our priority. So before I leave you, you may be wondering, what are the essential components of our migration approach? What tools would I hate to be without? So for you today, I prepared my current top 5 essential tools for migrating. The first is the Atlassian Cloud Migration Guide. They originally prepared this guide very close to when they announced the server product end of life, and they have continued to refine it over the years. Their guide forms the backbone of our approach. And I've already said, if you do nothing else, read this guide and then read it again. The second essential tool is a new one, and it's Atlassian organization training. Weird, right? It's because the single biggest change when adopting cloud is understanding how Atlassian combines your product sites under your new cloud organization and how that transformed user and group management. Atlassian recently released relatively inexpensive online training that helps you in understanding how you will manage your cloud organization. And they also have training for their new cloud product, Access, which is used for enterprise-grade identity and access management for your user base. We strongly encourage all our migration clients to take this training, as this knowledge is essential to administering your cloud products and is a critical aspect of your cloud onboarding. Plus, I believe this training will help you understand the changes that may be required to your organization's user and group management policies and procedures as you move from the server to the cloud. My third essential tool is a migration runbook. The runbook is your migration script. It describes what will be done, when, by whom, and how long it will take. A good runbook makes no assumptions and will provide visibility for migration progress and for verification. Atlassian requires that all migration projects include a migration runbook. Plus, while they do provide a spreadsheet template for their runbook in their guide, we prefer to leverage Confluence for the migration runbooks we prepare for our clients. And I'll say a little bit more about Confluence in a bit. The fourth essential tool is the cloud migration apps provided by Atlassian. They migrate Jira, Confluence, and Bitbucket. They each have their own apps, and they all go by a similar acronym pattern. So it's the JCMA, the CCMA, and the BCMA. You cannot migrate your product data without using these apps. This is the only way to migrate data from your server to the cloud. The Cloud Migration Assistant apps also support migrating many third-party apps, and these apps are the cornerstone of the migration. And my final, in our case, one of the most important migration tools we use is Confluence. Yeah, Confluence. For all of our migration projects, we create a dedicated Confluence space that we share with our clients. We use this space to collaborate with the client team and to document every aspect of the assessment, planning, preparation, and testing. We use Confluence Pages as the migration runbook. We leverage Confluence Actions to track tasks. This Confluence Cloud space is an example, by the way, of the immersive and hands-on education and guidance we provide as a partner. As our clients collaborate with us, they also get exposure to Confluence Cloud. And before I close, you may be wondering why Jira isn't on my list as an essential tool. And that's because we find it simpler to only use Confluence for the client collaboration piece. But rest assured, Jira is in our arsenal of internal tools we use to manage migration projects. we couldn't manage without Jira. So as we wrap things up, I encourage you to use the questions function to ask me anything you want about migrating from on-prem to cloud. And before we go to questions, let's recap our top 3 keys for a stress-free journey to Atlassian Cloud. Number 1, test early and test incrementally. Knowing exactly what it will take to move your data long before you schedule your actual migration will dial down the pressure significantly. Number 2, don't rush. All of our migrations, even for small servers, have taken on average 6 months from kickoff to launching in the cloud. Pressure to complete the migration in a short time frame tends to be the biggest source of stress for our clients. And number 3, get help. You could go it alone, but that will likely lead to longer time frames. Do yourself a favor, lean into the support available, and bring an expert on board.
Bum, bum, bum.
Before we close out, a quick reminder that we are less than a year away from the end of server support for Jira, Confluence, and Bitbucket. Given the main thrust of this presentation is ways to reduce your migration stress, I feel it's important to assure you that your server will continue to operate after this time. What changes is there will be no more Atlassian support available for the server products, and there will be no further software releases provided. That's it for me.
Excellent. Thank you, Krista. I'm just going to take a moment to introduce our team. While I do that, if you have any questions for our Q&A, please throw them up in the Q&A chat or put them in the main webinar chat, and we'd be happy to see if we can address them. You've met Krista. She's awesome. She is our head of migrations, and thank you so much for your discussion today, Krista. Lisa is one of our other Atlassian experts, and her passion is for ITSM implementations. And she brings her superb client management and communication skills, along with a keen attention to detail. She's very good at that. That makes her a great Scrum Master for our team. Karen is the CEO and founder of Highway 3, and her interest in Atlassian tools and their success in the workplace is fuel for our team. She's instrumental in building client relationships and also supports Lisa and Krista in their migrations. That's not our only team members, though. We also have Bruno and Cami and Kian and Nicola. You might hear their names when you work with us on your migration, and many more people that are on our team. We couldn't do any of the things we do without the support of our whole team. And you should reach out to us more if you have questions about getting involved in that. And I will give you a chance to ask questions. We do have some questions that were from before Krista, if you wanted to go through some. I don't think there's any in the chat.
No, we do have some frequently asked questions.
Mm-hmm.
One that comes up a bit is, can we migrate a single one of our Jira projects and then see how it goes? So that's very common. And it would seem like migrating a single project would provide useful insight, but generally we don't recommend it. And that's because it's very common for your Jira server to have a lot of cross-project integrations and references between projects. In addition, a lot of project configuration detail is shared amongst projects. So between the great deal of integration and many projects referencing issues in other projects, you can get a misleading impression of how easy or difficult the migration will be. So we think it's better to do your testing using the full scope of projects that you expect to migrate.
There is one question, Krista. Can you see that on the
great.
screen?
Yeah. So the question is, if we can't migrate before server support ends, is it possible to purchase extended support? And if yes, what's the cost? So there is no more Atlassian provided support for the server products. So once the end of life happens, you can't contact them to ask them questions about the server products. So the products continue to work. You can engage with third-party vendors such as Atlassian, such as Highway 3. We will always entertain engaging with clients and being able to support them, whether they're on server or cloud. The only thing I would say in addition is there was a question about cost. I will defer that to our sales team because I actually am not aware of what our support costs are. But if you, that's an anonymous person who posted that, but if you let me know who you are.
If you want to email Atlassian Sales, the email I put in the chat, we'd actually be happy to offer you a quote on that if we are able to, and further discussion, of course, and make sure that we're following up on that.
And what I would add is that we do have our own support portal, and that's how we support our existing client base. And we currently offer support for both server and cloud products. And the reason why people would choose us over just going with your basic Atlassian support is just because we do more work to get to know exactly your setup and configuration. And there's an ongoing continuity to our support. So once our team knows your environment, we can tailor our support to that. We also do a lot more support that is help in terms of education and guidance, how you can use the tools. A little plug for our support crew.
Excellent. Thank you, Krista. If there's no other questions, maybe we will wrap it up there. Krista, unless there's anything else you wanted to share.
I think the only one I want to, it's another frequently asked question.
For sure.
I think it's worthwhile throwing in to close. Where do apps and add-ons fit into the migration timeline? We mention them, and we mention test early, test often, but I want to just point out that the approach we take and the approach that Atlassian recommends is that apps are evaluated right up front. They are a key part of assessing the complexity of your migration project. So you do a full inventory of all your apps. You identify which ones you need to use and which ones you can live without. You identify which ones have a migration pathway and which ones don't. And then when we move from assess and into planning to get ready for testing, we develop an actual migration plan for each app because every app is different. So in terms of where they fit in the timeline, it starts right at the beginning and they're integrated in each step along the way.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's very important. Excellent. Well, thank you, Krista. If any of you are interested in next steps, we suggest getting a pre-migration health check. That's evaluating things like apps, like Krista was mentioning, and a whole bunch of other stuff, but I'm not the person to ask about that. We encourage you to talk to our sales team, like I mentioned, about partnering with Highway 3. Even if you have a cloud instance, we can support you with licenses or other things that we do. And that's on our website as well. I posted a link in our chat. And ask your team about migration. How do you see your journey? Has anything changed because of today's session? What are your stress points, and how can Atlassian or how can Highway 3 support you in that? And what are you excited about? What would really fuel your team? So we want to hear from you. If you guys want to give us a shout at our email or send us a message on LinkedIn, we're happy to chat. And once again, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Krista, for all of your wisdom. And we'll see you next time in our next webinar. And we appreciate your attendance. So thank you.
Good luck, everyone.
Good luck. Take care.